everyone, and welcome to the show. It is Local Chat, episode 200. We have hit the bicentennial man. He's dead. He will no longer be living. That's right, folks. Robin Williams passed away. I'm sorry to break that to you.
Terrible movie. Terrible
Not a
movie.
joke. Not a joke.
Stream. Did you? Who posted? Jake posted that thing. I've been off the internet for a while, and I just found out Michael Jackson died. What the fuck?
Oh, boy.
Joining us is the entire Subpixel crew. We've got myself, Will Crosby. We've got Kyle Bailey. We've got Ian Gibson and Jake Terrio. Gentlemen, start your engines because we're here to talk about video games. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the Weird Food channel. Before we get started, we will we got this chit chat section that we introduced. It's the first of its kind. We actually have the patent for it. So if Nintendo decides to chit chat and anything, we'll have to remove ball throwing from our video game. So, we've got some Subpixel memories lined up. I've got some messages from some near and dear to us, breaking horrible news. But who wants to kick it off? Who wants to talk Subpixel memory lane?
I just did the math literally just now. Gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but Subpixel is basically 6.5 years old.
Yeah,
Isn't
that sounds right.
crazy?
Yeah.
That timeline works out.
Yep.
Disgusting.
I've got a list of questions. We don't have to go through all of them. It doesn't have to be structured, but just kind of some food for thought. I figured let's start with the stuff we want people to interact with. The videos themselves, the stream series. Do you guys have any particular favorites that we've made over 6.5 years that when you think about, you go, hell yeah, we made something awesome, or that was hilarious, or that was really insightful? What are the ones that pop up in y'all's minds?
I regularly think about our roller coaster tycoon park and how it deteriorated towards the end, and that ride. I think we were still not really swearing at that point, so I made that really long water ride that everyone got trapped on, and it just was waiting for someone to notice that it was called like Make Me Wet or something like that.
Yeah.
And just waiting for that. But that game was super fun that the four of us got to play Roller Coaster Tycoon together.
Yeah.
It ran.
I was just thinking the other day, I haven't looked it up, but if Planet Coaster or Planet Coaster 2 have any sort of co-op multiplayer, that would be something cool to go back to, because those games are really neat. As the man who's made the most videos for Subpixel, Jake, what are some of your favorites?
I mean, I've got my favorites of the ones that I've made, but I think like on the whole of our filmography, I really, really like our Iceland documentary. I think also just because that was a really fun trip, in addition to getting like several neat videos out of it. That was just a great edit from Kyle, and just like a really unique thing that I think, not to like toot our own horn and be like, if not for us, most people would never get a chance to see this. But it kind of is that. But I'm still also very fond of our Epitasis and Halo Mods documentaries as like our first kind of, well, let's try to keep the ball rolling of what we were doing before, and really just kind of this a whirlwind trip of trying to capture all that and then getting those documentaries done. Those were both very fun and very cool, I think, and unique also in their own way.
I was thinking about that today. That Epitasis Halo shoot trip. That was the first time that all four of us got together in person. That was my first time meeting Jake and Kyle as well, and that was an awesome, like, I don't remember the timeline.
Disappointed.
I don't remember the timeline of how close that was to when we launched, but it was definitely a moment of like, okay, we are definitely doing this. We are putting a shitload of time and money and energy into this. And, the basic premise of the trip was everybody came to my Jake flew in, everybody came to my condo in Maryland. We drove down to Annapolis, then we drove up and stayed at Kyle's place, and then we drove up to Connecticut, and then we had to drive back the same day.
We did stay at my parents' house, right?
Yeah, dropped Jake off at the airport just barely, and then on the way home from your place, Kyle, it started snowing for me, and I saw like 4 or 5 car accidents.
Oh
It
my
was just like
gosh.
a crazy like 48, 72 hour period. But it was like, this isn't just a stream or just a YouTube channel. Like, we're putting energy into this. We're putting ourselves out there, and we got 2 great docs out of it.
Well, and that was my first time in New England, having grown up in California and then Florida, 2 of the longest states. In my mind, when we were in Connecticut and I knew I had to get to Philadelphia for my flight later that day, I'm like, there's no way we're going to be able to cross, 4
Yeah.
state lines in time. But those states are a lot smaller, and you can
Yeah.
just bop
Yeah.
right through them.
Which is crazy because you spent most of the time I knew you at college saying that they didn't exist, which I thought was weird. But
Yeah.
we proved you wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. You kind of stole my answer. I was going to say Iceland.
Sorry.
But Iceland was definitely like a, hey, like, we're international, baby. Like, I don't know. It was a cool thing to be able to say we went to do, and still is.
Yep.
I think honestly, just doing the Fired Emblem series this year was a lot of fun. Not for reasons why we did it, but it was fun. It was fun just to play a game like that from start to finish with Jason's help, and I don't know, there was a lot of funny, cool moments that happened, and I love being able to look back on that and be like, yeah, Will did that entire thing, and I think we only skipped a couple things, and yeah, that was fun. And then I don't know, I have to stick with Jake. Like, the docs are still my favorite thing that we've done. I want to do more. I know that we sort of started out and then COVID ended up ruining a lot of that stuff, but they still have a very special place in my heart. So definitely would like to get back to doing those.
Yeah, we had
Yep.
we had 2 things kind of tentatively that we were beginning to formulate, or 3 things maybe. I was in email chats with Blue Manchu, the Void Bastards and now Wild Bastards studio in Australia, like 2 weeks before the COVID lockdowns hit in the States. And then we were like emailing back and forth a little bit and being like, well, should we wait? Should we see? And they were like, yeah, let's wait. And then a couple weeks later, we were like, let's just press pause on this. It's not going to happen.
Hanks is stuck over there. We can't get over there.
He's trapped. And
Thanks,
then
Baz.
Kyle and I had very briefly talked to, we had like one conference call that we had some technical issues with Powerhouse Animation in Austin, to see about doing a doc about the Castlevania TV show. But they kicked it up the flagpole to Frederator, who owned the rights, and then we didn't hear anything else.
Yeah, well, and that was also like a week before season 1 came out and became, or season 2 came out.
Season 2,
and
yeah, because
became
season
like
1 was out. Yeah.
huge. Yeah. Yeah, but that was, let's reach out to them again and see what happens.
Let's do more.
Yeah. I think for me, there's a lot of stuff I've loved that we've done. The documentaries, of course. For me personally, I feel like the Pixel 8 series we've done has been like a personal journey into video editing and videography. Because coming into this, I was the person with the least experience. I think I'm still the person with the least experience with video editing, videography, and all that stuff. And those early videos we did, specifically the ones that I would call myself in charge of and doing the editing and everything on, are really shitty. Like the editing's not hot. The editing's like, there's way too much long stuff, a lot of boring stuff. And so it was like slowly getting better, but not really. But there was something about when I got that camcorder and we went to PAX East with it, and it was just like, holy shit, it is so easy to shoot naturally with this. And then coming home and taking that tape, because each Pixel 8 episode is probably 40 to 90 minutes of just random ass shit that we shoot over a busy weekend or whatever trip we're doing, and having to like tease that into some sort of like 4 to 7 minute edited video, and for it to come out so well every episode. And I'll give you a behind the scenes, folks. We have 2 or 3 episodes of Pixel 8 that we shot and we just knew, okay, we did not get enough good footage. There's zero fucking point even trying to cut this. But being able to pull out like the Renaissance Festival episode, hello, welcome, lords. Yeah, just like, you know, Subpixel, we put a lot of effort into this, and one of the frustrations for me personally is that I put a lot of effort into stuff, and then I view it, and I'm very critical of it. I'm critical of everything, including the stuff I make, and I go, fuck, this is not very good, but I know that I can't make it any better. And Pixelate is one of those very few things where I would make it, I'd be like, how the fuck did I make it come off that well, knowing that we barely shot footage, you know, and I had to edit it so hard, and the restrictions I put on myself. So Pixelate for me is like it's some of my favorite videos, because it's also hey, Subpixel isn't just something where we dick around. It feels like we're actually bettering ourselves, and my proof of that is what we've been able to do with Pixelate.
Yeah, I mean, to your credit, you went from, as you said, like not having a ton of experience to being like full on media producer for a very technically intensive live stream that we've done for how long? 6 years at this point?
This was 6, yeah.
Yeah,
this was 6. This is third year, all of us together live.
Yeah, and you and Will started doing that by yourselves, and it was like, I remember being like, I don't care. I don't have an interest in that at all. Like, they can just do it. I actually think I remember like not paying attention to the feed as soon as you guys started talking about it, because I was working at a nonprofit at the time. I didn't have any time to do anything other than like, I just wanted to do the documentaries. And then I guess the third year that you did it, or that we chose to do it, that was the year where I was like, yeah, we need to like I think you guys maybe even proposed the idea of just having all 4 of us. And then I was like, okay, what is this? Because I don't even know what this is. And I'm so glad that we sort of expanded it. And that was due to you guys. Like the 2 of you started that. So mad props.
Yeah. I will say, just to piggyback on that, like the amount of tech and effort we put into Extra Life and our streams and our documentary, I think that's one of the things that we should all be very proud of, and we should boast about a lot. And this is not shitting on other channels, even though it really is. There are bigger, more popular channels that every time we watch their content, it's like, why is their content so fucked? Why is their editing not good? Like, fix your fucking audio. There are 4
Dave Sata.
There are for-profit companies that run live streams multiple times a week, and I tune into their live streams, and the first 10 minutes is them with fucked up audio trying to figure it out live. And yet we throw it together, whether it's a stream and we have like a unique overlay and unique bits and moving graphics, or it's Extra Life where we go all out and we throw like a really high quality live production for 24 hours straight. Like, that's one of the things I'm really proud about us as well, is that we don't take the easy way out. We always go above and beyond. We always put way more effort into it than we need to, than our audience asks of us in a way, because we take pride in what we make, regardless of how it's received.
Yep.
Well, don't go watch some of our earliest.
We were still figuring stuff out at that point, but don't worry.
Yeah. What about some favorite jokes and bits? We have a lot of recurring jokes or just funny moments in isolation. Will, any that spring to your mind?
I wrote a couple down. These first 2 are different. They are specifically Maggie when she breaches local chat, or breaches containment, I should say.
Yes.
Which is the Jehovah's Witness letter that Ian talked about. Her horror serial killer specter coming into the background and just coming up and basically murdering you. And then I see it every single week, is Maggie yelling, "He has a son." And then you not yelling at her, being like, "Oh, I'm streaming, blah blah blah, get out." She leaves, and then you go, "Yeah, she's been watching Forrest Gump." Like, what? Like, who watches that movie and feels the need to come tell their significant other that he has a son?
Yeah, that one was the one that I thought of when you were like, "Hey, come to stream with thoughts." And I think it is partially because it is in the pre-show reel that I feel like I see it way more often, but also because I was a part of that moment where, because that happened, and then Ian was like, I'm on stream, and I was like, what? Like, so the gears were already turning in my head, like, what is she talking about? What can she be watching? And Forrest Gump was nowhere near the top of my list of potential picks.
It's very good. And the other one I wrote down was, this is not funny, no one will find it funny, but Ian sort of delay reacting to my, I can't believe there's two people named Martin Luther King, or two famous people named Martin Luther is one of my, because I thought of that joke. I said,
so
I'm going to save this for stream because it's so bad. And then I think it was Kyle or Jake who was on that episode. I think it was local chat, and just deadpanned me. And I was just like, and then actually, no, it was you two who was on the episode. And then I told it to Ian later. And that's when Ian laughed at it.
I was listening to local chat on the
that's
plane,
what it was.
because I catch up to episodes I miss, and as soon as I landed, I immediately got on Discord and I said, I got that joke, it was amazing. Like, you deserve that credit.
My one fan.
I do also want to. We lightly roasted Save Data earlier, but I really look back fondly on our Lethal Company streams.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think those were pretty recent in terms of our 6 years, but those were very fun and got a lot of good clips.
I still have those that I wanted. I have that and the Scorn thing Zach and I did together that I have like bookmarked in my Notion projects thing as like highlights. Like I want to cut them down to highlights, but I'm just too lazy.
The again, pulling from the Fire Emblem ones, but just making Jason lose his shit at the luck that you had, which was uncanny. Like it really was. Like no playthrough ends up like that, and he was just the image of him walking away from his desk and sitting in darkness in his bed, like lightly silhouetted, just in complete and utter disbelief.
The amount of time Jason told me something and then I would immediately do not the thing he told me to do, in which he would be dumbfounded, and then I would just go, what? Like it's supposed to happen that way. I have no concept of how to play Fire Emblem. I don't know how to play those games. I don't understand anything about those games. I just wait for Jason to tell me what to do, because I was so scared of making him angry that I didn't want to mess up and him go, why'd you do that? Because he sees 50,000 moves ahead, and I was like, why did I decide to play this game with someone who is like wants the best of the best? Like he's the drill sergeant of Fire Emblem, not the like helper of Fire Emblem.
And I love Jason, but I started out being like, yeah, like Jason's got this, and then the longer we played and the longer that we realized it was going to take even like that much longer to play it that way, that's when I was like, screw it, like just do it the way I do it normally, and just
Kyle and I rebelled.
Whatever feels right in the moment, just do that, and it worked.
It did. We made it through.
I think one of my favorite funny moments was my first Kingdom Hearts 2 episode 1, which was like there was this whole lead up, right? Because that was either in the middle of or shortly after we did the whole ranking of best games of all time on local chat. And so there was already a lot of people talking about Kingdom Hearts 2. So we're heading into this stream. I'm leaning into the character of I hate all video games and I'm suffering. I have to play this. And that episode 1 stream was like 3 hours long. It felt like everybody showed up for it, like Save Data and Subpixel. And there were so many jokes born out of that, like Primbus, Show Me Your Feet, Dog Street. And I swear I was laughing so hard that I had like laughter tears like 3 separate times in that stream. Like it just felt like a fever dream of an insane 3-hour stream. That for me just really feels like one of the funniest moments we've had.
I miss those streams because I would watch them incredibly drunk, and it was really fun because those streams were wild.
Yeah, that game's wild. How about biggest regret / what do you want to do more of? You know, we're not dead. This is not an in memoriam stream. This is not a goodbye Subpixel. We've got at least another 6.5 years ahead of us. So what do you guys, not that we have to give concrete plans for the future, but looking ahead the next year, the next 5 year, the next 10 years. We already talked about wanting to do more documentaries. Jake, you have some things that you really wanna do.
I mean, I've got some those who are regular viewers will notice that I've not really posted an edited video in like 5 or 6 months, because I ran out of easy ideas, and now all of the scripts that I've written are like somewhat intricate, at least production wise, where I've got like an idea, I've got a vision for the video that requires more than just capturing some gameplay and recording the VO.
You've done all the Lego games.
I've done all the Lego games.
Yeah.
The only thing I would need is to import a Sega Pico. No, that's not what it's called. What's that even called?
Emulator.
No, I think it is. I think it is the Pico.
It's like a physical book with like physical pages that has gameplay functionality to it. But we're not going to do that. But I do have a number of scripts that I think are really, really good that I just need to find the time to sit down and actually figure out the production side of it. Kyle and I have talked about one of them.
I know which one you're talking about.
And we need to schedule a time to.
Was that lesbian one, right?
Together, yes.
Sappho's.
Yeah,
Sappho's.
We're doing a Rihanna Rouge deep dive.
Oh hell yeah!
But
I would love that, honestly,
because we're gonna do shot for shot remake of all the FMV scenes with ourselves.
Yep.
That game starts with sexual assault, right?
That's why we're so excited to do it.
I edited
like mouth washing.
I edited that video.
I edited
right.
Because you did part 1 and then I edited part 2.
Yeah, I did a couple of the night-long Union City conspiracy episodes.
Oh yes,
because that was when it was two things. We were still doing scan lines, Will and I, and then we realized Jake likes editing and he does it fast, and so we were just like, hey, you want to just edit this shit for us because we're burning out over here.
But yeah, I've got some ideas for some longer edited videos that hopefully people will enjoy.
Awesome.
Nice.
Kyle, what about you? You got any plans for the Subpixel future?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of what Jake said about the amount of fun that we had during our streams, although they were with save data, but the streams that we've done for what was that game called? I don't even remember.
Lethal Company.
Lethal Company. I kept wanting to say save data, but that's not a game yet. And I would like to do more like all of us streams together, particularly with something like, I know this is going to annoy some people, but like GTA 6 whenever it comes out, because I look back at Jake's editing for the GTA 5 multiplayer series that he did with his brother, and it was so much fun. And I know Jake would edit something together that I think we get a couple moments that really hit comedy wise. You know, we could that could be our trajectory to making some, you know, at least like $3 on a stream. I think
at least $3.
Yeah. But I would love to do more stuff together as a channel, just the four of us, which I know is hard because we're in different places and locations, and it's hard to schedule that. But I think if we really made an effort to do that, it would be a lot of fun, because like even doing this right now is fun. Like I wish that we did more all aboard Subpixel streams. It's just a lot of fun. And then documentaries, like I said. So that's pretty much what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. What about you, Will?
Will goes. And
no,
then
Jake, hit your thought.
No, I was gonna say that I think we had talked about very, very early in our like pie in the sky, 30,000 feet. What kind of videos would we want to do? I know I pitched at one point, I wanted to do like a series of like World War II style documentaries about battles in EVE Online, but where I would like write and then record talking heads with like old actors. So like when you're getting like the World War II testimonials from some
like
80-year-old,
the Halo 3 commercials,
like the Believe trailers for Halo 3. I think it would also be fun to do something like that with maybe some of our Helldivers material. But that of course involves hiring and then shooting real actors who would deserve a paycheck.
I've been wanting for a while to do more scan lines. Sorry, I'm getting very emotional. Ian and I recorded a little bit like a couple months ago, and those turned out okay. It was mostly that one game that was just a sex game that was like detailed,
Lots of dialogue,
demon genitals, and lots of dialogue.
It was like lots and lots of dialogue over skipping. Oh God, it's happening.
Yeah, it was a lot of cleanup. But I've wanted to do more scan lines. I've been in talks. The save data, there's a couple now. There's 4 save data members out here on the East Coast, and we've been talking about they want to do some board gaming stuff that they want me to help with, and then Chris and I want to build a little set at the studio, at George's studio, to shoot scan lines, and he hasn't played the Uncharted game, so we were thinking of doing something with that. But of course that takes a lot of planning, and building a set isn't necessarily cheap, so save up some money. But other than that, I want to make more SBC. I've been very lackadaisical on that because I started once again editing for work, and then you're just like, I don't want to edit on the weekends, I want to do something else. So I want to bring back more SBC. I was literally looking at stuff for a Christmas special, and there's a lot of Christmas garbage on the internet, so there'll be plenty to do with that. Ian, do you have plans?
I do, yeah. So I have some hopefully near-term plans, which is I don't think I've mentioned this publicly. I've mentioned it a little bit privately, which is for the past 6 or 7 months, I've been sitting on an 85% complete edit of VTOL VR Play This. Like, literally all the footage is done and in place. It just needs audio and a little bit of FX touch-up, but I'm just being very lazy. So I feel like I really need to close that up and push it out the door because it was pretty good. But it's also led to a larger realization I've had, which is that we were talking about editing earlier, and I've done video editing for let's call it 6.5 years now, because it's pretty much all of the Subpixel time, and I've gotten better at it. I've gotten more used to it. I've learned some of the tricks, turning out better videos now. I've also come to the realization that I hate video editing. I don't want to do it ever fucking again. Like, it's you guys ever have this where you're like, oh, that's really cool, I want to do that, and then you finally try it and you dive into it and you're like, I'm kind of understanding it, but I'm more understanding that I hate doing this, and I don't actually want to do it. I just want to appreciate it. So that's me with video editing. But that being said, it's just encouraged me to I want to do more intense streams. Like we've had a lot of fantastic streams, like Sunday Service, Minigame Game Show, SPC, like you talked about. And I do enjoy putting those together. They take a lot of effort. And I think part of it was we would put a lot of effort into that. We would turn out something fantastic, and we wouldn't get more viewers than we usually would. And I would kind of use that as an excuse of, well, maybe we'll stop doing that. Even though it turned out really great, we're not getting a return on it. But at the end of the day, like we just talked about, that's some of the stuff we're the most proud of. And it doesn't piss me off or annoy me as much as video editing. I much prefer stream production. So I think that's what I'm going to really turn towards is trying to bring back some of these streams that are complicated, more bits, more improv, more moving virtual sets, things like that. Some of them will be returning streams. Some of them will be brand new stream series. That's what I really want to work on for the future.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for Subpixel. Today's the last day. Thank you, gentlemen.
This is the last episode of Local Chat, right? We're done.
Oh God, please.
God. We didn't even talk about Local Chat, which is that this is our most successful show, not just in terms of longevity, but like continuous viewership. And I know Will puts a lot of effort into it, and you've joked before, but I know I'm pretty sure this is true, that you only do this show because I enjoy it so much.
Pretty much.
But I am proud of what we've done with Local Chat, and that you've kept it steady week after week, Will, because I remember hearing Backlar talk about this, like any fucking idiot can start a podcast, but it's very hard to do it regularly and to do hundreds of episodes. And this is a fantastic achievement.
Well, yeah, look at Chasing Kojima.
Yeah. Great job on that one.
Just
Listen,
not
the
much
guy-
to talk about. On that
Yeah,
one.
he doesn't get in the news very often. No,
Yeah.
I like local chat. I'm glad we do it. It's just like, it's just Thursday. That's Thursday night. That's been Thursday
Yeah.
night for 3. And no, I'm not complaining. I love doing local chat.
Well, what else are you
I
gonna
hate
do?
it,
It's-
but yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, sorry, that's the night I do podcasts like that. It's funny, it's weird, and I enjoy doing it. I hate getting guests. I'm the worst person about that. I hate messaging people. I hate inconveniencing people. I've gotten better at it, and we got our little guest server, which is nice. But I do like local chat, and I basically got it down, even though there's a new issue every single week. Like Google Chrome just doesn't want to display my camera again this week, so we're using Firefox, folks.
There you go.
They rock.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, final thoughts.
I was gonna say, so speaking of local chat, we can probably turn the stream on and get this episode started.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, let me hit that.
Sweet. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, okay.
Nice.
Don't worry, they can't hear us. I've definitely muted us, so they
The
definitely
whole
can't.
time. We've been
Yeah.
live muted for about 35
Yeah,
minutes.
so let's do it, but record now. Man, I make that joke every
Okay.
time too. Hello everyone. Yes, local chat. This is the chit chat section. We're here to talk about. I went to PAX Unplugged this PAX weekend.
We
Ooh.
went to PAX Unplugged.
Listen. I gotta break it in so people understand what's happening here. Kyle also went to PAX Unplugged this weekend. Man, Kyle.
Started off strong, let me tell you.
Tell the
man.
folks about the beginning of PAX Unplugged.
All right, so Will, Karen, and I parked within like a city block of each other. We got out, we finally met up. We saw each other from across the street. It was very romantic. I jaywalked across, so thank you for not giving me a ticket, Philly cops. And we met up, and I was like, oh, you guys got coffee. You didn't get me anything. I want coffee. So looking around, there's a little Christmas village in Philly. It wasn't open, so we were like, okay, well, we can't go there. Where can we get coffee that's close to the convention center? So Google. All of a sudden, La Combe, or however you pronounce it. I don't go there very
Colombe?
often, and nor will I ever go there again.
It's pronounced Lacoste.
Okay, yeah, like the clothing company.
Lasagna.
I forgot. Yeah,
La Bamba.
yeah. I wish it had been lasagna. That would have been. It probably wouldn't have smelled as much.
Coffee lasagna?
Anyway, so we go into the coffee shop, and there is a pretty decent line. So we end up waiting like 15 minutes or whatever to get my actual coffee. I ordered a small iced mocha latte with almond milk, and I received a very large, what I assume was a mocha. Well, I can definitely tell by the smell. It was definitely a mocha latte of some sort, but it was about this big. I mean, it was massive, way more than I wanted. And the guy gave it to me with no top on. The coffee, not the guy. That would have been a different story if the guy
Hell
didn't have
yeah.
a top on. And I was like, okay, well, like, where can I get a top for this coffee? And he points over there. So I grab one, and as soon as I touched the top to the coffee, a seam created itself in the middle of the very
Oh
thin
my
plastic
God.
cup, and the coffee went just all over me. It went up the lining of my jacket. It got
Oh
all
my
over the
God.
white of my sneakers. I was very happy that I was wearing the best color for not showing coffee, which is tan. So it didn't show up at all. It did. It showed up a lot, and it looked like I shit myself facing forward somehow.
Baby style.
And everyone in the Lacombe was like, oh, like it was a big thing. I immediately got a bunch of towels given to me, and we cleaned up. And there was a guy next to me. He was like, I don't know how you didn't freak out. Like I would have been so angry. And I said, there are worse things in this world than getting coffee spilled on you. You could be the CEO of a healthcare company. And that got several laughs, which made me feel a little bit better. Then we walked out, and I was still very cold, and it was, I was starting to shake and get hypothermia because it was iced coffee and it was cold outside. And Will proceeded to let me know that it was very apparent that it looked like I had shit myself. So
trying to see if it's visible in any of the photographs. But you've covered it pretty well.
So we immediately went into a bathroom in the convention center, and I wiped down so that it only looked like I pissed myself, and it came off pretty easily. And I just had to deal with smelling like coffee the entire day until you brought it up at the very end of the day,
right when we were leaving.
Then everyone from Save Data was like, "Oh yeah, it does kind of look like that."
Oh yeah, you did shit yourself.
Yeah. I was just.
I didn't want to say anything. Yeah.
So Karen and I had gone outside at this point because I heard Kyle's name and it was stuffed full of people in there. So I was like, good, I can get out. I didn't want to stay outside because it's freezing outside. So like, good, I can get outside. He'll be right behind me. And then I just see like someone wiping the counter, and like Karen says like, oh, I think he spilled something. And when you came out, like the whole ordeal happened, I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm so happy the like story thing happened already this weekend, so I don't have to worry about something horrible happening to me, because there's no way something else is going to happen. But I did feel really bad for you. I was like I was going to be like, oh, should we walk back to my car? Like, but I didn't have an extra pair of pants in my car, so I was like, I don't think that would work. So I was, and we also passed like 4 more coffee places.
Oh yeah, there was like a Dunkin', there was a Starbucks. Like we could have gone anywhere with,
and they weren't nearly as busy. So just don't get coffee ever, anybody.
Nope.
But PAX Unplugged, Kyle and I went. We Karen came as well. We met up with Zach, Wes, Chris, and Vic of Save Data. Had a great old time. We played a lot of board games, demoed a lot of board games as well at the convention. I got a lot of, we had content creator badges, so we got a bunch of press badges and stuff, or press emails for like setting up meetings and everything. And we didn't do any of that. Save Data did a little bit of it, and it seemed like a pretty cool thing. So I think next year, if we get the creator badge again, I might try to set up a couple meetings to see some games. I filmed everything on my 8 Pixel 8 high 8 camera. That went really well. Ian, I'm happy to report that I finally figured out how to S video directly into my computer, so the footage looks really good, even though the first like 20 minutes I accidentally burned the time into the footage. So
it's fine, no one cares.
That's charming.
It is charming, but I didn't mean to do it, and I'm upset with myself. So that was super fun. I totally understand all of your frustrations with shooting that show when we do it.
Because the other thing, just to say, is we do this on trips, and when you go on a trip, you want to experience and do things, and and you can't, if you're having to constantly be like, oh wait, let me get footage, wait, let me stand behind the camera, wait, let me shoot that. You don't want to do that. You want to experience the thing. So that's kind of the conflict with shooting a travel show.
Yeah, and thankfully Kyle and Karen both shot a bunch for me as well.
Nice.
It was super fun. I need to get another. Thankfully, Sony still makes the exact same lithium-ion battery for that camera, and I need to get like a USB version of the charger because I had to go. Thankfully, we had access to the press room, so I could go charge the camera there.
Dude, that was the best thing we ever got access to.
Yeah, because we could put our coats there, like lay our coats down and not worry about people stealing them. We could get water there. There was free Wi-Fi. You could, all the tables had power strips taped on them. It was super, super awesome. Oh, and there was a cage that you could lock your stuff in as well, which is really nice. We played a lot of board games. Kyle played Firewatch and purchased, or Fire Tower.
Yeah.
And legally distinct, purchased a copy. Kyle, you seem to enjoy playing that game when you play the demo.
I won, so I definitely enjoyed it. But no, it's very, very fun. You control fire, which is always fun, and also all of the pieces of fire are like are distinct, sort of unique pieces. So you get a ton of really cool, just physical pieces to play with on the board, and it's just a really cool concept. You're controlling fire, you're growing it, and then using the wind every turn that can shift north, south, east or west, depending on where your fire tower is, and you're sort of trying to build up defenses and cross over other people's defenses to burn down their towers. And even if you get burned down, there's still a way for you to continue playing. So it's really fun. 4 players. They have a bunch of expansions, but definitely recommend it. And who is it? It's made by Runaway Parade Games, and they are fantastic.
Recent? I'm suddenly realizing I might have seen like a video of Funhouse playing that.
Yeah,
Funhouse.
I think it is.
Did
Yeah.
play it. That looks super
cool.
fun. It's a neat game, and I think Karen also enjoyed playing it. Although we didn't pick up a copy, so that tells you something about our tastes versus Kyle.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
Kai also got a bunch of pins. He
Oh
was
yeah, I already put them in
hungry.
my thing. Yeah, I collect enamel pins. I'm trying to fill up a big poster board of cork board that I have. I'm like maybe like 30 pins away from having it filled. So
Cool.
Heck yeah.
cool.
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 And then I purchased some stuff. I got the Mothership Deluxe Edition. Mothership, for those who
wanna
don't know.
How you feel about that, because I've only seen good things about it, and the art direction looks nuts.
Yes, the art direction's awesome. It is the Deluxe Edition comes with all these little books plus a bunch of modules. I think I want to run a game with us because I think it'll work on PC just fine. It seems like a really cool system. I'm pretty sure it's D100 based, which is really neat.
Ooh.
And there's a good I got PDFs for it all as well, so if we run a game, you guys can like have the player's book to read through and can get everything ready. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's a bunch of modules, and then there's like the whole beginning of the like DM's guide is like basically how to tell a good horror story and like outlining a good system of doing it. And I'm like, wow, this is almost like it's like a writing book. It's not just like for an RPG. So that was cool. And then I was going to buy this box set of a medieval like horror thing, RPG, and I was like, yeah, I want this. Like, I love medieval horror. That's a good setting. But I was like, I already have the Mothership, which is space horror. And then my eyes fell upon this UVG book. And having recently watched Scavenger's Reign this year, it very much evokes that art. The people at the booth also talked me into a DM screen and a pack of maps because everything was 25% off for the final day of PAX East. And
Nice.
this book is just delicious. It is like this outpost city on this world, and you're just going out on treks and discovering the weird shit. They do like a whole explanation at the beginning. They call it fantascience, which I had not heard before. So it's fantasy science fiction, and it's weird and fun. And that's another thing I want to run a game of eventually. So
Wait a minute.
be on
I'm
the
sorry.
lookout for
What do they call it? Fantascience?
fantascience.
Most
Isn't that-
fantasy works a lot.
Yeah, isn't that
Flows
just
a lot better?
Fantasy
The science
sci-fi.
of-
Yeah, fantasy
Yeah.
sci-fi is like the industry term. What are they trying to do there?
I don't know. That's what they called it in here. I thought it was deliciously clunky, and go fuck yourself.
It's a clumsy portmanteau. That's what it is.
Listen, I'm not a chef.
They're actually sponsored by Fanta, so that's why it's.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, the
That
Fanta
makes
Girls are
sense.
all over this. It's
That's what
crazy.
the ocean around Lego Island is called, the Fantasy.
Can you imagine how ugly the Fanta Girls are? If
Well,
that
those
existed?
commercials used to have women in them, and they were like in the like colored
Did they?
bikinis for the. Listen,
Oh my god.
We don't really use the word colored anymore, Will. So-
Yeah.
no, I meant the bikinis.
Oh, okay.
Guys,
Can you
we weren't
imagine if I
joking.
just
This will
casually-
be the last episode.
Can you imagine if I just casually used that term?
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Thank you for pointing it out, because that would have been a halucha clip.
He's not going to apologize, but he's glad.
I
glad
was
you
talking
pointed it
about
out.
no, they
Yeah.
had like bikinis that were orange, and then they had a
sure.
couple that were like
Keep it
swimsuits.
in your
I should.
pants.
Well, bikinis are swimsuits.
Hand check.
They were white anyways, so it doesn't even matter. No, I have no
I
recollection
can't
of
believe
the
you would
Fanta
assume
Girls.
that. Well,
It was probably boys anyways, Fanta boys. But yeah, overall PAX Unplugged was very fun. We had a good time. We waited forever to get food at Reading Terminal, but we made it out unscathed. It was good.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a great market,
did you end up going to the that butcher shop after?
We didn't. We walked to a cheesesteak place that was literally right next door to the garage. Fantastically delicious cheesesteak. The owner was there throwing cookies at people, and like talking about stuff. Oh God, it's Shay's beef. I want to say it was called. It was super good. Apparently they pick up the meat fresh every day and cook through it all. And I thought that was very neat. It was absolutely delicious. So it was very messy as well. I recorded us eating it. It was crazy. So that I've transferred the footage for that thing. So I will eventually edit that for all to see. But that is it for the chit chat section, and now I've got a new stinger that goes over into the video game section. And so let's see how this plays. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh, it's short and sweet. Okay,
it's short and sweet. I found a bunch of cool intro stuff.
What if we report to Twitch?
What if we what?
What?
No, sorry.
Someone
emails.
We had a bot that just got banned. So
Goodbye, bot. I'll go quick. Actually, I won't go quick because that's the big discussion game. Ian, let's go through your games first. Your other games.
Ooh. Yeah. So first up, just continuing to play some Foxhole. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's basically a top-down MMO FPS. It's like a World War II style, but the basic premise is that everything in the war is made and done by players. So every bullet you shoot, every respawn, every gun you pick up was made at some point from scrap materials into a factory.
It's like EVE Online kind of.
Yeah. And then somebody had to ship it to the front, and somebody had to build the bunkers and build the trenches that you're fighting in. I've been trying to dabble into some other parts of the game because you can just hop in and play it, but it's got a whole lot of different mechanics in it. And so one of the first things I did this week was I did a freighter for the first time. So the way the freighter works is it's literally just a giant boat that you can put 5 shipping containers in. And each shipping container can hold 60 crates. And a crate is like, 20 guns or 100 rounds of ammo, things like that. And so I spent a week. I didn't have to do this. I could have just pulled it from the public inventory, but I wanted the feeling of it. I spent a week getting the materials to build the freighter and the fuel for it and fill it with materials. And then I hopped in the freighter and I loaded it up with the crane, like literally spawn in the container crate, fill the container crate, put the crane on the freighter. And then I took it from the back line, which is like the friendliest edge of the map, all the way in the north. And I brought it all the way down near the middle of the map and dumped off the materials there. The idea being people who need stuff at the front, instead of having to go all the way to the back, now they can, take a 3-minute truck ride to get it from a local depot. It's pretty satisfying. I will say I'm super glad I did it, because as soon as I started actually driving the freighter down the rivers, I immediately hated it. And so it was like this really nice moment where I was like, okay, I've tried it. I did it. And now I know it's not for me, because and it's not a problem with the game. This is how they balance it, right? So the freighter is very slow. It has very slow acceleration. It's very big. The map is mostly rivers. And so you're having to navigate. And it's hard to see ahead. And whenever you come to a bridge, you have to stop at the bridge and get the drawbridge up, which you can still do from the boat, but you basically have to line up with the drawbridge, open it, and then go through. And every time you mess up, you hit a coast or you hit the bridge wrong, you have to back up and correct it. And it's just painfully slow in the freighter. So it took me
Can you get in the Suez Canal? Can you Austin Powers yourself?
So yes, and it actually is a strategy. And I believe if a boat is left there abandoned, anybody on your team can get in the boat and move it, but the enemy team, I think, can't move a freighter, I believe, and it will despawn after 48 hours of nobody touching it. But it can be destroyed. So they talked about one of the strategies is if you need to block off an enemy river or block off a narrow crossing so their ships can't get through it, you can drive a freighter up there and park it sideways, and then they will have to go through the effort of destroying it to get through it. So you can, Suez Canal it a little bit, but the game continues being great. I'm having fun with fighting. I'm continuing to dive into it. I do think we could all enjoy it. And Jake, I've been thinking about you because you mentioned how you wanted to play Arma, but you wanted to do it from like a journalist perspective and like a war reporter. And you could do that in Arma. I think you're too soft for the Arma player base, Jake. And Will, am I wrong here?
No. I think maybe it would take some getting used to.
Yeah, it's a lot of basically like, okay, imagine you walked into a modern military barracks and it's just a bunch of privates bullshitting. That's what you would experience, and it is very racist, very sexist, very over the top, very macho. And so that's why I was like, it's a cool idea.
It doesn't sound like Jake.
No. That's why I was like,
Yeah, I'm not
cool.
macho.
Yeah, but that's why I think Foxhole would be
All
perfect.
the other things.
Yeah, because Foxhole has a lot of people role playing. They love the game, and it's very easy for you to hop around. So you could totally do the war journalist. Like if you showed up and you just started talking in text or voice chat, and you're like, "Hey, I'm here from the paper. I want to do an interview with you from the front lines." Like people would be into it immediately. So I feel like you could totally do a journalist in the front lines.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Or the back lines or the mid lines. Foxhole continues
All
to
the
be great.
lines.
All the lines.
All the lines.
Real quick, another game, continuing to play Sea Power, Naval Combat in the Missile Age. God, this game's really good. I play. It's so funny. It's early access. It has a lot of content in it. Like they have a lot of units. They have a mission editor. They have a lot of scenarios built in. They have workshop support, so people are adding scenarios. But at the same time, there's stuff not in the game. Like you can't save the game right now. So if you're in a scenario, you're in it or you quit, right? And so I've been doing this thing where every 3 or 4 days I'll hop on and I'll play a scenario of Sea Power, and it takes me like 2.5 hours to get through it, is what I would say. But it's like 2.5 hours of like riveting naval combat where I'm like plotting lines and I'm like, okay, I've got 3 of these missiles and they have a 65, nautical mile range, and I can see the enemy and they're going 70 degrees at 6 knots. And so that means they're going to be here in 2 hours. So I need to plot an intercept course to be within range of them. And it's really, really good. And it's very intense. And just when you think everything's good, like I was playing a mission the other day, just when you think everything's good and you're kicking their ass, all of a sudden there's 3 torpedoes off your starboard and you're just like, where the fuck did those come from? And you like turn on your radar, which normally you leave off, but you turn on your sonar, all of a sudden there's a fucking enemy sub like 30 nautical miles from you and you're just like, the fuck? And then you're like, so it's really good. It really hammers home this quote I heard somebody say on the Sea Power subreddit, which they said modern naval combat and Cold War naval combat was not about if you're going to die, it's about when you're going to die and how much you can do before you die. And that has really struck home because the missiles and munitions are very accurate, very long range, very hard to counter. So it's all about just like getting those first shots off so that even if you do die, you at least have, extended all your munitions, which is really fun.
Hell yeah.
The other game I've been playing, folks, it's a GOTY nominee. There's no fucking doubt about it. Echo Point Nova. Played it for about an hour last night. Have you guys heard of Echo Point Nova?
Heard of,
No.
have not yet tried it.
Okay, let me describe it. It is an open world indie first person shooter, very stylish. It's a first person shooter that just gives you all of the mechanics. So you have your guns, you have a double jump, you have a grappling hook, you have a hoverboard, which basically just means you're constantly sliding everywhere. And there's all these little islands across the map, and you go to an island and they have an encounter you can kick off, and then you can unlock something, or you go to an island to pick up ability orbs, which level you up here, or you find a hat which gives you more skill points, so then you can have more skills and perks equipped at the same time. And I played this for stream last night, and it's just It's a gluttonous video game because it's similar to Helldivers 2, where they are giving you so much stuff from the get-go, and rather than being like, hey, we're not going to give you the grappling hook until you earn it 3 hours into the game, and you're going to have one charge every 10 seconds, and then you have to unlock a skill to do it like once every 5 seconds. This is like Helldivers 2, where they're like, nah, fuck it. We're going to give them everything from the start. Everything is in, like, we're going to give them shitload of ammo, shitload of respawns, shitload of explosives like they do in Helldivers 2. Within the first 10 minutes, I had unlocked like all the weapons. I had the hoverboard, the grappling hook, the double jump, and everything. And then it's just like, yo, go have fun, man. Like, go through this world and you're just zipping around. The game feels fantastic. Every single one of those mechanics they've included feels really, really good. I kept having to pause the stream because I would get so intense. There were these moments where you're just zipping around and you zip up to a guy and you just shotgun him to the face, and then the beat drops to the music and you're just like, whoa, and you're going like 100 miles per hour grappling, hooking around. It's just a game that feels like they knew what game they wanted to make. They gave it all to the player rather than having some grind, and they just want it to feel good 100% of the time. And it does. It's very, very good. Highly recommend Echo Point Nova.
It looks like neon white with like Doom or something, like really fast paced.
Yeah, it does have a bit of like a speedrunner, like a Counter-Strike Surf, like a Tribes skiing type of feel to it. It's very, very good. It's one of those games that just feels incredible and has, like I said, there's just a bunch of islands and there's stuff to unlock, and there's like a thread of a story you can go through, or you can do whatever you want. And it just feels very, very good.
It has 4-player co-op.
Yeah, I have heard the co-op. I have heard the co-op's not good, and it's not the game's fault. It's just that because you can go anywhere so easily and you're moving so fast, even though we're in co-op, we would just never see each other, because you would just be like, in 5 seconds, you would be half a mile away, you know? So I've heard the co-op is not really worth it just because it doesn't work well in the game.
Cool.
But yeah,
Good to know.
Definitely check it out. Echo Point Nova. I think that's all we want to talk about for right now, right? I think, Jake, you've got a game on here that we want to hit before the big discussion.
I mean, you've also got another game on your list, but are you going to skip it, or does it matter?
Yeah, we're going to go to your first game.
Oh, I see. I was misreading. Okay, I got you.
He got there, folks.
Yeah. I learned. I've been playing Hitman Freelancer again. I re-downloaded the Hitman World of Assassination, the big jumbo power pack. And that Freelancer mode's just real good. Randomizing the target, giving you like the special objectives where they're like, okay, well, you'll get a little bit more money if you kill them with a knife. And so then you're like, okay, let me figure this out. It's real good. I'm in the level 500s somewhere. I don't know how that factors to like hours played, but it's a good amount. I have now like an instinctual knowledge of almost every map, so I can like start to like plan ahead what I would like to do, and then it makes like improvising easier if something goes wrong, where you're like, oh well, wait, I can still do a thing here or the thing here. I know there's a shotgun at this location. Yeah, just real good stuff. It's a good game.
Yeah,
I'm excited for their James Bond game.
Oh yeah.
It's just crazy that was the third. They put out 3 Hitman games. This is not a problem, but they're all basically the same with like enhancements and refinements for each of them. They put out DLCs, they put out different mission types, and it's like, okay, awesome, great job on the Hitman trilogy. That's it, right? And they're like, nah, we're gonna put a banger-ass roguelike mode in it. And it works, and it's the same locations, but like you're saying, it completely twists things around and makes you completely change how you're playing the game. That's really cool to see.
Very neat. Kyle, how's the baseball in the backyard?
Still feels exactly like it did back in the 90s. I played a couple games. I had forgotten that like when you are pitching, your pitcher has like the juice. It's like the juice box is like your energy. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
He's juicing.
Yeah, he's juicing all the way. Actually, the best pitcher, I can't remember his name, but he's in a wheelchair. and he's like by far like the best pitcher.
Is that not Pablo
in the
Sanchez,
game.
or is that
Pablo Sanchez is the best batter? But I think he's Japanese, but he's in a wheelchair, and he's just like throws really fast.
He's got all that
heaters
extra
and stuff
strength
like that.
in his arms.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
you
he's
know?
got like inertial momentum with the chair.
But I had totally forgotten that they have the like kid announcers, and one of the guys' nicknames is called the Gooch, which
oh no.
as soon as they said that, I was like, was that a thing like in the early 90s, early 2000s, or late 90s, early 2000s? Because it's just, they go, and he says it like 3 times, and he says it in the third person where he's like, oh, the Gooch doesn't like that or something, and I'm just like, buddy, you gotta stop. But,
jeez.
But yeah, no, still a lot of fun. Absolutely is just a transplant of that original source material that runs on modern systems. Like that's all they really did. I don't think they've made any modern changes. I don't know how to access like the settings, because there's no clear like button to press for settings. And I think at least when I did it, if you hit exit, it doesn't bring up like a traditional sort of like main menu, like with like, you know, save options, exit. Like it's very weird, which I kind of find endearing. And I figured if they were going to make a remaster, I would have rather than be upfront about it, and just be like, hey, we're completely redoing this game. But the fact that they were like, hey, we're just doing this, like they were pretty open and honest about it. We're like, we're just making it run on modern systems for $10 or $8 when it came out. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll play that. So, but they're apparently they are doing some sort of a new entry or something. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what they do with that. Otherwise, nothing major to report. Just a lot of fun. Classic 2D baseball game.
Heck yeah. From backyard baseball to infield playhouse, I was playing Metaphor ReFantazio, and then I said, fuck you, game, because...
But that was you guys picked that as game of the year though. over at GameStop, you guys picked it as game of the year today.
Oh, did we? Oh, that's disgusting.
You
Actually,
voted on that, right?
That game is really fantastic. I'm continuing to play it.
It's Fantasio.
It's very, very Fantasio. It's great when you die in that game. It just says in giant letters, "Fantasy is dead," and I like really take that to heart every time it happens. No, I paused that, even though it's great, because. And I will read what I've written here. California Rick and the Huge Oval came out. Jake has also played it. Alabama Jim and the Magic Cock Ring. And Kyle has played. Kyle is downloading.
It's done. It just finished.
It's
like
finished
10 minutes
downloading
ago.
Jersey Joe and the Massive Manhole. And Ian went with Indie Atlantic, which is a good one.
I want it to be known, I was first. So
it's true.
Don't make it seem like I didn't follow the pattern.
It's true.
Yeah,
I don't think I read yours when you started. Folks, the new Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is out. It's here. If you were to ask me one game this year I was looking forward to in active disappointment, it would probably have been this game. Indiana Jones games have a track record of being pretty not good. I think the only one I personally really like is Emperor's Tomb, because I played it as a kid. And then I know Fate of Atlantis is the point and click one that everyone likes. But other than that, they're very... Actually, the SNES collection was pretty cool too. They're not very great. And
plenty of good Indiana
ones.
Jones games.
Plenty of great ones. I'm plenty of great. Actually, but to be fair, there's like 50, and it's those that outweigh all the other ones. It's out, it's here, it's free on Game Pass, and I'm like 6 or 7 hours in. I didn't actually check. I'm in the second area, and it is fan-fucking-tastic. I am really enjoying this video game. It starts off, the whole tutorial is the Raiders of the Lost Ark temple, and I won't spoil anything how that ties back into the main game, but it is very cool. They
still have Alfred Molina in brown face.
Real quick though, is it? I feel like that opening was actually a bad way to enter the game, because I'll just say this: I knew that was coming, and I was like, Okay, that makes sense to make it a tutorial, because that way you can focus on learning things and learning what they're trying to teach you and not be worried about the story, because you're like, oh, I know what's happening here. We're just replaying, the first opening scene of the first movie, so I can just focus on, learning stuff. They barely teach you anything in that segment, and it's just a lot of like their bad. They're not even quick time events. They're like bad interact events. So you have, and it's like what, like 10, 15 minutes long. So you have to play through the scene.
It didn't take me that long, I don't think.
Well, because they keep opening it up where they're like, hey, do you want to swim through the pool in front of the temple? And you're like, yeah, is there anything to do here? And it's just like, no, we're just gonna let you walk through the area, and people are moving slow. And so it's like, it's this really, I think the game's fantastic, but I think it's a bad opening, because you're like, okay, I've already seen the movie. You're not really teaching me anything here other than just walking through a scene in the movie. And it didn't feel like a good tutorial.
I think I can probably picture the pitch for that being the tutorial, because it is kind of, to use the industry term, it is kind of the vertical slice of like the Indiana Jones experience, where you get the gun and you get the whip and you get the some of the traversal. But yeah, I got to the end of it and I was like, yeah, I wish there was maybe something else. But
did you get the gun in the tutorial though? I don't think you do.
They show it to you. You don't. I don't think
in a
you
cutscene. Yeah, but that's kind of what I mean. Is that I was expecting it to be like, okay, show me the journal, show me how to interact with all this stuff, and it's like a 25% tutorial. It's like, hey, here's how to move. Yeah. Here's how to move and interact with the door and use the whip, and that's it. And then the next mission is a lot more tutorial, and it was like, okay, well then what was the fucking point of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder also if it was a Lucasfilm. If Lucasfilm was like, you should put that in there.
Yeah, you should really put a movie scene.
Yeah,
in
I
there.
can see them having done that as the vertical slice, and then be like, "Oh, we'll keep that in there, like as the opening." But regardless, it just feels really good. I wrote down some notes, which is the attention to detail in the video game is great. There's that, like we talked about, the opening. The opening is shot for shot the same as the film. A lot of attention to detail there. It's cool. The next part, there's a museum section, and I told Jake I just walked around that museum section, like reading all the little, because you can, it's in 4K 60 FPS ray tracing on the Xbox Series X. It's gorgeous. Read all these little plaques, check out everything. The attention to detail is fantastic. Troy Baker, Harrison Ford.
Oh, he's selling it.
He is doing a very good job at the voice. It's not quite an impression. It's I know he's doing an impression, but it feels like he's doing an impression of how Harrison Ford would act. He's not doing an impression of Indiana Jones.
He's doing
a lot more. He's doing the cadence and the way that Harrison Ford speaks, rather than like the sound,
like matching. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it feels like he's doing Indiana Jones and not doing Harrison Ford.
Yeah, sorry, I said that in the reverse. But I will say I don't know if I assume he's the mocap actor, because he does mocap, but whoever is the mocap actor nails Harrison Ford's like mannerisms. He does the point very, very well. The like facial expressions, the way he walks, like in a lot of cutscenes, it feels like I'm watching an Indiana Jones film with Harrison Ford in it. And I enjoy the lengths they sort of went to get that right. And then the first couple areas, the other stuff I've really liked, other than the traversal's pretty fun, the characters are nice. I don't want to get too into like spoiler areas.
Thank you.
There's a lot of little missions hidden around that are just like, they're not in the journal or anything, which the journal is a beautiful thing that they have in that game. But like, you'll walk past someone, they'll say something. Like I walked past these two Italian guys who are just like, oh, let's have some wine. Did you bring wine from home? And the guy's like, no, I forgot it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And I saw a bottle of wine, picked it up, walked over, and it said, give them the wine. I'm like, okay. And they're just like, oh, thanks. And you're like, yeah, no problem. And then also you're walking around this area and people are saying hello to you, and Indiana Jones is saying hello back to them. and like saying things to them, and it's just you feel like you're in the city. And then there's things where like you have a partner when you're sneaking around, and you're sneaky and they're just walking around the open environment with the enemies who are not noticing them, and you're just like, okay, well, this game isn't perfect, but
it's the BioShock Infinite type.
Yes,
or Last of Us,
right? And it feels like a movie because I got to one point in the story where we like opened this area and the person's like, okay, I'm gonna go down here, follow me down. And I like Googled, I was like, what's the point of no return for this area? And it's like, oh, it's this thing. And I go, oh shit. So I like turned around, went back into the area, started doing things, and then I happened upon a quest that had that same person in it in different dress in a different situation. And I'm like, oh, this part's from earlier in the film, but we're just gonna reset the scene here and like do this little section. Not that it like matters overall to the story. And it's just funny because I'm like, okay, we got to the set piece, we respawned, like it felt like it fit still, because you're like, oh, it's Indiana Jones, like this is the like action piece I'm at to do it. And you weren't like, this is cheap, why do I have to go through this area again? Because you're figuring stuff out. There's a lot more cool stuff in here, but I'll let other people hit on it. Ian, you want to go?
Yeah, just real quick. You mentioned it feels like a movie, and I agree and disagree. And the reason why is, so over the past 6 or 7 months, Maggie and I watched all the Indiana Jones movies, and just real quick, I watched Dial of Destiny this past weekend. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's just
fine.
solid. It's fine. Yeah, so it's one of those things where like, if you're terrified of watching it because you hated Crystal Skull, it's better than Crystal Skull. It's not as good as the original 3. Just watch it. It's really not as bad as people make it out to be, but it's not as amazing. But anyways, and the thing about this movie, the thing about this game is that this game is not, it's not an Indiana Jones movie. It's a Da Vinci Code. because this is the thing that's,
I'll say it's for now, because I think I'm further than both of you.
Well, let me put it this way: the Indiana Jones movies, I was surprised when rewatching that, because my memory was like, oh, he's an adventurer, like he solves these puzzles, he goes to crazy locations and things. And then you watch the movies, and I swear, if you counted it, the movies are like 40 to 50% or more action scenes. There is actually not that much like investigation or like thought, or like, we're going to figure this out. It's more just like, oh, here's a little puzzle. I figured, oh shit, action scene, 20 fucking minutes, minecart chase, Nazi punch. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. But those are action movies. This is not an action game, which is fucking brilliant. Because if you just made Indiana Jones an action game, it would just be punching and fighting. And that's not fun. There's a shitload of punching and fighting games out there, right? And it's gonna be very hard to make something as good as the best of those, because there's a million of them. So they didn't. They made a puzzle game. They made an actual adventure game. You're having to go around. Like you said, you're having to investigate. It's rare that you get in combat. And when you do, it's with fists and it's over very quick. Like, that's not the main thing. It's very rare that combat is the main thing. And it actually feels jarring when they force you into combat. Because 99% of the game, like you said, you're walking around, you're taking pictures, you're doing little mysteries, you're finding little notes and things. And that's the thing that's shocking me the most, is that this is a better fucking Indiana Jones than the movies to me, because I don't care about the action. I want the adventure. I want to figure out the mystery. I want to find the medieval notes in the tombs and figure out the puzzle from that. And that's what the game is giving us, that the movies actually don't have that much of, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, the Digital Foundry thing, I watched a lot of their coverage. I still have not played it. So just going back to what you were saying about Troy Baker, they did a scene for scene comparison, and it's spot on. And it doesn't feel like he's doing like an impersonation, like you said. It just feels like he's channeling Indy in a very, and I've said I'm not a big Troy Baker fan, but like, I don't know, he seems to be doing a pretty good job. But to your point, what you were saying, Ian, and I don't know if it was Digital Foundry or it might have been Skill Up said it, but they were like, this fills in what you don't get to see in the movies. Right. This has all the in between stuff that, they jump to the next scene and you're like, well, how did he get there? You actually get to do that. So I think maybe that's why it fills in that sort of need for like, oh, when you're watching the movie, you're like, I want to see more, or like, I wish they were able to do that, because it's a game, just the difference of medium. you are, and maybe that's in a way like more fulfilling if you want to spend more time in that world. So I kind of get that, but again, I haven't touched it at all, so I'm really interested to get started. Jake, how far are you, and does anyone know how long the game actually is?
I don't know how long the game actually is, but I'm at least a section and a half past where Will is, at least
Okay.
based on what Will's been talking about. And I'll say, dovetailing a little bit, there is a big action set piece at the end of the third section that was actually a little bit jarring, because suddenly I was like, oh wait, big action spectacle.
What am I doing? I'm an archaeologist. Why am I fighting, guys? You know?
It was at the turning point in the story where I feel like, in especially those first three Indiana Jones films, where the first act and a half typically is like the more like historical setup, and then it switches into kind of the mystical supernatural stuff in the back half. And I feel like I've just passed that threshold where it goes from like more of the boots on the ground, we're figuring out the ancient mystery, and now we're introducing the mystical element that each of these stories has. But on the note of the storytelling, like the moment to moment writing, which Will had alluded to, is so like authentic to what you would picture as like the Indiana Jones experience that it is kind of shocking to me. I want to know if like Lucas and Spielberg had any creative input on this, because it's so like,
I feel like deleted scenes ripped out of
every
Indiana
character
Jones
beat.
movies.
Yeah, everything Indiana says is like, oh yeah, that's, they just, whoever has I'll look up the writers after I finish.
Yeah.
But like, whoever's writing that dialogue especially just like has their finger on the pulse of like who Indiana Jones is as a character. And Will and I had mentioned, I won't talk specifically about it, but there is a comedy beat in that first big like open world section that is just like,
is it the Vatican?
It's in the Vatican.
Is it
a
spoiler?
I think I've seen it.
Is it a spoiler? Because I don't know which one you're talking about, because there were a couple that I think
it's not a spoiler.
There's a confessional.
A case of mistaken identity where one of Mussolini's black shirts like pulls Indiana Jones aside, thinking that he's like a real priest. It's so funny. And it's like, I laughed out loud.
There's a note there so afterwards that you can pick up.
Oh, I didn't find that.
And he picks it up and makes another comment to it. It's very good.
So Jake, just to fill in your question, it was written by, according to IMDb and Wikipedia, one person, Tommy Tordsson Bjork, and he was the writer of a bunch of the Wolfenstein games.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I assumed it was going to be someone in-house at Machine Games, someone on their staff, but that's crazy. There's, on the note though, my one note here that I wanted to talk about specifically is like, while the writing feels so authentic to Indiana Jones, the cutscene cinematography does not. And Hazel and I just watched Jurassic Park, and the whole time I was watching that movie, I was like, man, it really is unfair to compare most modern filmmakers to Steven Spielberg, because he just knows what to do with a camera in a way that's so like effortless.
If I may, it's not just modern, because he directed the first episode of Columbo, and it's fantastic. And then you go to other episodes of Columbo, and it's like, now we're just back to like very static 60s, 70s TV making. So he stood out at the time as well. Okay.
But there's one of the first options in when I like first booted up the game and was setting like the UI and the spacing and the brightness settings. One of the first options was between, I think, what they called full screen or cinematic, and cinematic punches in with the 235 letter bars. But I noticed it wasn't just that they were adding letter bars; it was actually that they were like,
it's actually widening
the
image.
Yeah, it's widening. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know if I want to play like the whole game with 235 letter bars. So I'm just gonna do like the 16:9 mode. I think what this means is that like there have been a couple of cutscenes now where I've noticed stuff occurring on the edge of the frame that's a little bit cut off, where I feel like they were producing all the cutscenes in cinematic and then not being as careful as they should have been.
They're like panning and scanning,
a little bit. Some of it feels pan and scan, and then there have been a couple of cutscenes where just like the shot composition or the shot selection even or the editing between them just hasn't really felt right in ways that I can't really describe.
You know the stutter problem, right? So this game has a problem. It's the same problem Horizon had. When they flip shots during cutscenes, it stutters. So not everything loads immediately. It'll stutter in. And the other thing it has, Digital Foundry pointed this out when I watched their video, is that some of the animations, it's 60 FPS cutscenes. Some of the animations are playing at 30 FPS or 15 FPS. So like Indy will be moving and he'll turn and that's 30 FPS and then it goes back to 60. So there's a lot of jarring shit in the cutscenes that are technical that make it feel off.
Those are not like I think I'm more talking about the literal visual language of the storytelling, where there's bits of like, I wouldn't have lingered on this shot or I wouldn't have framed it this way. And there was one like big, what was supposed to be kind of a big emotional beat where I actually wasn't sure what was happening because I thought it was a character, their face, like seeing their reaction, and I thought that then the camera was going to show what that person was looking at, but they just never did. They instead had like Indiana Jones come into frame and like pull something aside where then both of them are seeing the big reveal but I'm still not seeing the big reveal, and so some of that is like it does not feel like an Indiana Jones film in that regard. So it just does not have that finesse.
You're still playing in 16:9?
Yes.
Like you're okay. So when I play, I will play in is it 239?
It's cinematic.
Like, does it do it to
it just says cinematic.
You don't have to. You don't have because Star Wars Outlaws defaults to that, and I played it like that for 15 minutes.
But Star Wars Outlaws doesn't widen anything.
It doesn't widen.
It just adds the bars.
But it does do the thing where it punches the UI down.
When you're
Indiana Jones
when you're on that widescreen.
But Indiana Jones actually widens. So because I thought the same thing, Kyle and Ian. I was like, I didn't do this. I was going to do it in Star Wars Outlaws because I thought it was a neat thing, and then I didn't because it wasn't. It was literally covering up the screen. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So yeah. But Jake, I will say there are just to point out there have been a couple shots. And this is where I think they are doing an impression rather than improving upon like the Troy Baker stuff or doing well. Is there have been a couple shots that are just like, hey, we love the shot from an Indiana Jones film and we're going to do it. Like there's one point where he's feeding a pet animal. It's a very funny scene that's well shot with 2 characters or 3 characters. And then there's another, like that shot where they zoom in on his diagram of the Great Circle was pretty good. And then there have been multiple shots of characters' faces with the eye in the light, which is the shot from Raiders when he leaves the Nepal bar. So like there has been stuff, but I think to say like they're more of like homaging to that and doing those shots than they are being like, we have good cinematography for some of this stuff.
It feels very, it's functional. It's functional cinematography. Like I love those Wolfenstein games, but they're not really like the you're there for the storytelling. You're not there for like the visual presentation of any of those cutscenes. They do some more interesting stuff in New Colossus than in New Order, which was just very much like medium close up.
The writer Tommy Tortzen was also the lead writer on the Chronicles of Riddick: Assault on Dark Athena.
I know that was a huge influence for this game. And having played 5 or 6 hours of Dark Athena or Butcher Bay, this is very reminiscent of that. That is like open areas where you're just immersive sim walking around, talking to people. People are talking back to you. Like it's crazy how much DNA from that is in this. So
Riddick goes to the Vatican.
Riddick goes to the Vatican. Yep.
I think I think what's most impressed me is well, not most impressed me, but I've been very impressed by Indy's little one-liners after he knocks someone out. Those all feel very authentic to the character. Yeah, so on the whole, I'm loving this thing. I have my minor little quibbles with it from like a filmmakerly perspective, since it is adapting a filmic property. But other than that, I'm all on board, and I'm thrilled to see where it's headed. I hope it sticks the landing. But
I think I'm in where the train is, Jake, and I keep finding documents, and I find myself reading documents now, rather than doing like the pan and scan of an RPG. And I think I know where I'm headed to next, based on clues also from trailers. But it's just fun to like explore this whole area and then be like, oh, where am I going next? Like, what am I looking at here? It's super fun. And on a technical level, I know we hinted a little bit, loads insanely fast travel very fast. It does like a little, you can tell it's like it zooms out third person, then zooms in when it's all done loading. The lighting is gorgeous especially on the Series X.
It's id Tech.
It's I love torches and throwing torches. And...
Yes, but I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but this engine does have a problem, which is in dark areas, it smears the shit. Like, have you guys noticed that if there's a dark area in shadow and you move the camera, the whole fucking area jiggles?
Oh, is that a DLSS thing?
I don't know. I mean, I'm playing on Xbox.
What's everybody playing on?
I'm playing on Series X.
I'm on the Series
S. The only issue I had, I mean, I've had some texture pop in, like in the distance. But the only issue I had is I got to an area where it was raining, and when I would move the camera, it would all smear. So I went back, and one of the first things it prompted me to do when I was downloading on Game Pass, it was like, hey, do you want to download the 45 gigabytes of updated textures, of increased textures? And I was like, I don't think I need that. But then I went back and I downloaded those, and it fixed the rain issue. But other than that, I haven't noticed a lot of increased visual fidelity from the 45 gigabytes of whatever it was I downloaded.
I don't get the smear. I don't know if that's an OLED thing because I have an OLED. I don't get that, but I don't get any of that smearing.
So that was my first thought, was like, oh fuck, something's wrong with my TV. But I captured it. It uploaded to the Xbox Cloud, and I pulled it up on my phone, and it's very obvious. I'll post it in the Discord. It's just one of those things where it's like the game looks fantastic otherwise, but as soon as you're in a dark area, the smearing gets really bad, and it actually takes on this. The first time I saw it was in one of the first missions. It starts with a cutscene where you've been drinking, and so I was walking down the stairs and I see the smear, and I'm like, is that a drunk effect? And it was no. It's just some weird quirk with that engine. Like, literally, if it wasn't for that, beautiful, incredible game, but anytime there's a dark shadow moment, especially if you're in like a fully dark place, it's just smear city. And it looks bad.
So weird.
You have HDR as well?
I do have HDR. I tried it with motion blur on and off, and it didn't make a difference.
It's just weird because I'm super sensitive to that stuff. You know me and TAA, which there is a bit in this, and I haven't gotten any of that. So I'm just.
Did they bring that up in Digital Foundry? Did they talk about anything like that?
I skipped through it. I don't think they did, but I didn't watch the full 16-minute video.
But yeah, I really like the lighting. It's cool. There is some times where there was like a couple challenges where I fell and died, and it reloaded the scene real quick, and I was in a tomb, and it just reloaded the scene. And it was like, let's not load any of the lighting, and it was just bright underground. I was like, what? And then it just slowly dimmed all the way back down. I'm like, oh, okay.
It does I do hate this. This is not the fault of the game. This is just modern. All the modern games do this. You're in a dark area, you walk out a door, and it's just like bloom as shit, and then slowly comes down, and it's like, all right, we don't need to really do that anymore, folks.
Also, Kyle, you'll like this. This game mirror edges weapon guns to like in Mirror's Edge,
what way?
Where you like barely use guns because you pick them up and you're kind of like you're barely iron sights using them, and
they don't really want you using guns.
Exactly.
You can use this melee weapon.
There's so many things you can hit. Yeah, the gun, you hit X to flip it around. So I love like running towards people, because sometimes you get caught, and so I'm just shooting Nazis, flip it, and just start bashing people. and the combat noises and sounds.
I'm gonna have a
flows
good
pretty
time.
well. So there's also an underground fight club you can find where you beat up fascists, and that was pretty fun as well.
Always down.
Is this the last on-screen appearance of Tony Todd? Does he have anything else that's coming out posthumously?
I don't know, but I did get very sad when he popped on screen. I went, "Wait, Tony Todd."
I do have to say something antagonistic though, but I feel like it has to be said because as soon as I realized it's very important. It needs to be said. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, AAA, big budget adventure game based on an established decades-old IP. It's not just retreading the board; it's doing things above and beyond what the movies have done. Incredible, fantastic game. It makes Star Wars Outlaws look like dog shit in comparison, because Star Wars Outlaws is the same exact thing, right? It's a AAA, big budget adventure game based on an established IP, decades old, and they made the decision to just do mediocre, normal mechanics across the board, right? Yeah, we're going to have shooting. It doesn't feel good. Yeah, we'll have stealth. It doesn't feel good. I mean, I guess we'll have a little bit of an open world, but it's not that rewarding. Yeah, we'll have vehicles and whatever, but it's not going to feel that good. Whereas Indiana Jones, like I said, they could have just been like, yeah, it's just a Nazi punching game, right? All you're going to do is run around and punch and shoot Nazis and use your whip. That's all you have to do. They could have very easily made that game, but they didn't. They did a much better job of understanding, adapting, and expanding what Indiana Jones is in our mind versus what it is on the screen or what the like minimum viable product of that game could be. And when I realized that, I was like, there's a direct comparison here. And I still think Star Wars Outlaws is like a solid 6 out of 10, but it looks even worse now that Indiana Jones has come out.
Yeah, I do like Outlaws.
As you know, I did come around to Outlaws, and I actually think the last act of that story is actually really good. Like it actually picks up speed, and has a little bit of an emotional heft to it. But to your point, any game that isn't that from the beginning has a problem. If it takes an entire game to get to that point, there are major issues with it. And I enjoyed my time with Outlaws once I got to that point and realized how everything kind of gelled together, but I shouldn't have had to wait until I started to feel that. So I'm with you there.
They've also and this isn't an excuse, this is just separate thought. They've added a bunch of improvements to the game. Like they removed the forced stealth and changed a bunch of things, which honestly is better than a lot of other games that wouldn't change something like that. But I think at the end of the day, if that game wasn't based in Star Wars, it wouldn't be on anyone's radar. I don't think.
And I hate to kick somebody when they're down, but I think the fact that they're having to make these large scale sweeping changes so soon after launch, it's one of those things where it's like, that's an admission of guilt. That's you understanding that you fucked up in your original design decisions. And the fact that you can turn it around so quickly just makes it worse that you did not turn it around that quickly pre-release while you were still developing the game.
I think it's more just a fact of almost different ideologies in game development, where Indiana Jones, again, I haven't played it, but from what you guys have told me, Indiana Jones is like an ode to how games used to feel almost, whereas you put the disc in and you don't have to wait for a day one patch. You don't have to wait for months and months of complaining to hey, can you fix this thing? It just sort of all works and it does what it promises on the tin. Whereas Outlaws is sort of the tradition of today's modern AAA games, where you do have to wait and wade through these issues and patches, and the developers have to have feedback from players, and then they'll implement stuff. But there's this back and forth now, and it's in the news. Whereas Indiana Jones just seems pretty solid from the get-go, which is kind of what everyone should be taking as the norm rather than the opposite, which is what Outlaws has done. So I guess I'm really interested to get into Indiana Jones is all I can say at this point. But Outlaws is definitely a bit of a disappointment in that regard for sure.
To that point, it also looking at the two games side by side, as we've been fairly comparing them, is Indiana Jones feels like they're like, hey, massive games.
Did Outlaws? Yeah.
Yeah, massive.
It's just called Massive.
And machine games. Machine games is what I was trying to think of.
Oh yeah.
It feels like they said, oh, here are machine games. Here's Indiana Jones. Let him cook. And then with the Outlaws, felt like, hey, here's Star Wars Massive, and we're gonna be over you like a hawk the entire time. Changing things, or like you have to release it next week. It's coming out. Where like Indiana Jones feels like it might have been delayed or not delayed, but being like, hey, this is our timetable. Deal with it. Like this is what we need to get this game done.
Yeah, it felt like Outlaws was added to like the Ubisoft conveyor belt, whereas Machine Games is like handcrafted. So,
but it's wild though. It's one of the best. It's one of the best Ubisoft games that have come out in several years.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Still not good enough, you know.
Yeah. But you're not wrong.
Yeah, and different, yeah, but still not good enough.
And I'm glad Machine Games can continue the tradition of letting us punch Nazis. It's great.
If anyone's gonna give us the most cathartic Nazi punching experience, it's gonna be Machine Games.
Oh, I will say, Will, you and I feel like you can relate to this. This game does an incredible job of Vatican and Vatican City and Castle di Sant'Angelo, whatever it is next to the Vatican. Because I'm pretty sure you went there when you were in Rome. I went there when I was in Rome earlier this year, and I was like, holy shit, this is the courtyard. Oh yeah, we walked through here, and oh my god, that's that. Like, it's, again, this is the only place that I've been in the game so far, the only open world area, but they do a fantastic job of making you feel like you're actually there. And having been to the real place, it's like, yeah, this feels authentic. Like it just it actually feels like not just a lived in space, but an accurate space, and that's crazy.
Yes, and I was also when I got into the Sistine Chapel, I looked around and I was like, oh, the Sistine Chapel. And this is where I killed the final boss in Assassin's Creed 2 that I just played a couple months ago. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then
I was like looking at the doors. I was like, because you go in a different door from the tour, and then I was like, oh well, there's the door we went in the tour, and I went to it, and it was like it was not a real door in the game, and I was like, oh okay, that makes sense. Like I was literally being like, that's the door we came in, and then we went that way. And it's crazy.
The game is so detailed. I was looking around the Sistine Chapel for a bit because I was like, oh, there's the Adam and God touching each other and not touching each other, I should say. And like all that stuff, it's like so cool. And it's not like it's blurry at a final point, but it's like very high res. You're like zooming in with a camera, looking at stuff. Like that's probably the best representation of the Sistine Chapel in video games.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Definitely.
It's
really
very
good.
neat. Very neat.
Only because, Will, you just mentioned it. My only real complaint that I know you and I mentioned in the Discord is that part of the journal is not a photo book of the pictures you have taken with your camera.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Because I just started taking... The camera's very good. And I started taking pictures immediately, but it's not photo mode. It's just for collecting things.
The pictures you do take for hints, it uses the actual pictures you take.
In the journal, yeah.
Because I took several...
associated with the item, yeah.
I took several hint photos with the lady in frame, and it's just her, and it says, like, this is the blah, 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 and there's nothing else there. It's just a picture of a person. And I'm
wait,
fuck.
Is there a photo mode?
No, there's no photo mode. You get a camera.
So it's a diegetic camera like in Firewatch, but you're taking them to like gather evidence for your journal. But I want there's some times where I just want to take a picture of something that's not related to the narrative.
And it's wild because they give you adventure points for some photos that are not part of quests or anything like that. Like when you get the camera, if you immediately take a picture of that guy, it popped an achievement and it also gave me adventure points, but it was not related to a quest or anything. So they want you to take pictures, but it's not a fucking photo mode. I
did also find someone later. This, I guess, not really a spoiler, but I found someone later in the Vatican somewhere who's like, you know what? I really wanted a picture of Keith Mars, but I don't have a camera. Wherever am I going to get a picture of Keith Mars? And I'm like, excuse me, madam. Here you go.
Oh, gotcha.
The other thing with the camera is fuck, I lost it. Never mind. I had one more thing to say and I really don't remember what it was. Taking pictures. Anyways, it's fun to take pictures and it's good you can like use it as pseudo binoculars, which is super nice. So It's fun. Overall, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. The Great Circle, while I still think is a terrible name.
Big Circle. Yeah.
Is a fun game, and I'm really enjoying it. It feels very Indiana Jones, and I keep playing it. I can't put it down. So it should be fun. That is that. We don't have any gaming news this week, as it seems. Which
Nothing
means
happened.
I can't play the new gaming news theme because we have no news to talk about.
You know, I was prescient enough to know that it would be an hour and 42 minutes until we got to the news section, and I was like, how about we just skip that this week?
Yeah, that's probably smart.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
The
it.
only big news, speaking of cameras, TOEM2.
Tome
on the
2,
way.
yeah. I'm excited for that. And they announced the new Ultimate Raccoon Sheep Raccoons.
Yeah, something like that. It's a racing Ultimate Chicken Horse. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been
There's
playing
a lot of
shit
stuff
ton
got
Chicken
announced
Horse.
today, like to get ahead of Game Awards, which is smart, honestly.
Yeah. I don't think I'm gonna watch it, but I'll probably watch it because what else am I gonna do on a Thursday night?
I know we're not supposed to talk about news, but there's a rumor going around. Somebody who used to work at Valve and doesn't anymore said, "Hey, I heard the rumor. Gabe's going to be at the Game Awards announcing Half-Life 3."
That's
yeah,
not
I would not
going
be
to happen.
surprised, but I don't know.
But okay,
there have been rumors for a while.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up is Jason Schreier was the one who went out there and said, "Hey, there's going to be 2 like incredible jaw-dropping announcements that because he's acting like he knows the whole lineup and at least 2 of them are going to be incredible." And then Gabe has been talking a lot, especially with the anniversary of Half-Life 2. He's been talking a lot about like, you know, we wanted to do an episode 3. It was a mistake for us not to do it if we did a Half-Life 3. So there's a lot of talk from Valve itself about more Half-Life.
I will.
In the Valley of the Gods.
I think. Yeah, in the Valley of the Gods,
yes.
which
Dead.
apparently has
That's
come up
That's dead
again.
as shit, y'all.
And then
That's dead as shit.
no, there was like recent stuff or hiring or something. But regardless, I would also I think I'd rather have a Portal 3 than a Half-Life 3.
I'd rather have an orange box too.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh my God.
Hell yeah! I would take
Oh
that.
my God.
Okay, let's get the fuck out of here. I didn't pick new outro music, so it's the same outro music. I only have so much time on Earth.
The throwback.
I only have so much time on Earth. I'll pick a new one. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Will Crosby, Kyle Bailey, Ian Gibson, Jake Terry, all joining me this week to talk about how lovely my buns are. That's right, folks. Subpixelfilms.com. Soon there'll be an OnlyFans there that you can go to and check out all of our buns, our hot dogs, and more. And maybe even a Rihanna Rouge playthrough. Yeah, subpixelfilms.com. That's our link tree. We will be back Saturday at noon with some
tactical breach wizards.
Tactical breach wizards. I was thinking of streaming a little Indiana Jones, or actually having stream Karen playing Indiana Jones for Halucha. I was thinking about doing that. Happy 200 episodes of Subpixel. We've got a lot more content planned. Hit us up in the Discord. We love you all. Bye, everyone.